If you've ever finished reading a self-development book only to feel like you spent 7 hours or more to get maybe 1 or 2 concepts that you're not even 100% sure how to apply. In this video, I want to give you my most straightforward takeaways from over 7 years of practicing philosophy and self-development. Ironically, I call these takeaways the 7 mental models. And so whether you're looking to transform your perspective, transform your mindset fundamentally, or you're just looking for tools, tips, tricks to transform your focus, your energy, moment to moment whenever you feel stressed, anxious, etc. This is a long-form training to arm you with the specific tools that actually work. Not saying that you're not going to want to read more books in the future for enjoyment, to sharpen your skills, what have you, but what I am saying is with this training, I'm condensing years of learning into specific actionable strategies. And so if you're ready to finally move past that grip of anxiety, that grip of depression, and see that needle move in your life, again, it's intended to be highly actionable. And so however you take notes, however you make sure that you really digest that information, make sure that you are prepared. Let's jump in.
All right, so before we jump into this video, this is going to make the most sense when looked at through the context of a big goal. With the activity that goes along with this video, I include some basic instructions of how to build a big goal, but the bottom line is pick something that is 5 to 10 to 20 years from now that really embodies the entirety of the character that you want to become, right? The higher self in a nutshell. So before we go too deep into this, I want you to start to formulate that goal. If you want to pause this video to really make sure that you're clear on that, if you want to jump into the activity and start to visualize that goal using the journaling activity, that might be the best way to have a really tangible process in doing this. But before we go any further, I want to make sure that you at least have some semblance of what the best version of yourself 5, 10, 20 years down the road looks like, and the rest of this training is going to be just that much more effective. So start there and then let's jump in. So the first of the 7 mental models that we're going to talk about is the map of consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins. This is generally a chart that aligns emotion with a subsequent vibrational state. Now, for a lot of people, this is a little bit more woo-woo, but it doesn't have to be, right? It can be pretty tangible. Just understanding that lower emotions, right, more negative emotions, things on the more survival based part of the paradigm versus the more, higher level emotions, things like joy, things like love, right? These lower emotions, things like grief or apathy, are going to come with them a much lower vibrational frequency. You can see with this chart that those frequencies are between 50, maybe even something like 90, right? And the idea here is generally that when you exist in a more survival-based part of the paradigm, you're going to find yourself less able to change the reality that you're in. So let's talk about a couple of examples, both tangible and intangible, right? So the tangible example would be something like a job opportunity. Say, for example, you spend, an hour every day sending out applications. 1 week goes by, you've sent out, let's say, 100 applications, right? And in that time, you received 2 responses, and those 2 responses were simply rejections. They were just saying, hey, we're actually not, looking for somebody of your capability, somebody of your whatever it is, right? And we're gonna go ahead and reject you. Now, you've now spent all of this time putting out applications only to get rejections back. Now, a lot of you that have gone through the job search process, you're probably thinking, wow, 100 applications, that's nothing. And maybe you can resonate with that, and that's something that feels empowering. Maybe it's something that feels disempowering. But the bottom line is, you go through all this work, you get rejected. The feeling that comes with that is a negative feeling. Now, with that negative feeling, if you don't choose to transmute that feeling into a more positive feeling, that negative feeling is just going to leave you with a sense of grief, maybe a sense of shame. Now, with that feeling state, it's much harder to change your situation tangibly, right? Much less change your situation emotionally. But if you're able to get yourself to acknowledge, hey, this is the feeling state that I'm in, this is the response that I'm getting, and actively changing that state. So rather than saying, I'm just going to, hit the ground running and send a bunch more applications, or I'm going to wallow in my sadness, the first thing that you're acknowledging is that the feeling state is not ideal. The feeling state that you're in does not allow you to take as much inspired action, to maybe send the best application, write the most really juicy cover letter, right? So first things first, you're acknowledging that here's where I'm at, right? Awareness is really the first step. So you're acknowledging here's where I'm at. Now, what would the ideal emotional state be? If I were to sit here and maybe I can visualize myself succeeding. Maybe I can visualize myself attaining those acceptance responses. If I can do that, then I can shift the emotional state that I'm in. But you don't even need a visualization necessarily. Visualization is a tool, and we'll talk more about that in this training, but you might not even need that. You might just need to be able to acknowledge, this is where I'm at, this is the emotional state that I want to be in. Maybe I want to be in the state of acceptance, or the state of willingness, or even something lower like courage, as per this map of consciousness. If I can just shift myself into that different feeling state, it's going to be a whole lot easier for me to send more applications, right? Stay committed, be more creative, analyze the applications that I've sent out before and see what maybe I would like to change. But the bottom line is that once we actively raise ourselves into this quote unquote higher state of consciousness, it's going to be significantly easier for us to actively shift where we're at, but also get better results in the future. So this is the idea of the map of consciousness. You want to use this like a tool that allows you to actively shift. I apologize for all the excess background noise. But like I said, if you can use this as a tool, if you can actively change where you're at, you're going to get better results, whether that's just from the perspective of getting you to take better action, if that's just from the perspective of getting you to be more committed, right? Whatever it is, you're going to be much more likely to take inspired and more effective action the higher that you raise yourself on this chart. Like I said, the first step is awareness. The second step is to actively acknowledge what state you want to be in. But then we'll talk more about tools as we go throughout this training. So let's move on to the next mental model. The next mental model is the Robert Dilts model, that is the logical levels of change. Now, the bottom line here is that the vast majority of people are living from a bottom-up perspective, right? They're looking at their environment, they're reacting to their environment, and then based on the reaction to their environment, they are behaving a certain way. Those behaviors carried out on a regular enough basis form one's perceived capabilities. Those perceived capabilities help to build out your sense of belief. Like, what do you believe that reality is? Those beliefs are forming your identity. So that's the bottom line. Now, vision in this particular situation does not really play a part at all. And if it does play a part, the vision is an imaginal reality that is based on the negative situation that you're in response to your environment. Now, you might be living a life where you're not, you have some higher degree of control over your emotions and your understanding of who you are in relation to maybe a totally apathetic universe, and that helps you somehow. And so maybe this doesn't have to be as negative, but for the vast majority of people, it does tend to be a pretty negative state of existence. It's a reactive state of existence. It can be a responsive state of existence, but it doesn't get further than that. It seldom is a creative state of existence, right? Now, the best case scenario is when we're living from a top-down perspective, and this is why it's so important to start with that vision. This is why I had you at least start with some inkling of a vision at the beginning of this training. Was if a person lives from the perspective of vision down, right? They start with their vision. Their vision is what is creating their identity, right? Who they are in that mind's eye is something that they're working on a regular basis. They are deliberately forging that dream state of identity in their mind. Well, then it's much easier to have the capabilities, right? To pinpoint and focus on the capabilities that you really want against the cacophony of the external world, right? Ignoring what everybody's saying you need to do and you should want to do this. Essentially, the world is constantly trying to live vicariously, right, through you, trying to tell you what to do, mold you into the being that is most in alignment with what's convenient for them. Whether that's family, whether that's friends, whether that's employers. I'm hoping you're understanding the concept here, but if you can consciously form who it is that you want to be, irregardless of any other influences, it's so much easier to build capabilities and subsequently act on those capabilities, which is what your behaviors are, that ultimately forms the environment that you want to exist in. Now, is this saying, again, this isn't some woo-woo concept of act out a certain way and believe that you're in the world that you want to be in. You can do that, and I highly recommend, if that's something that resonates with you, do that. The idea here is that as you pinpoint and as you ignore the things that are not in alignment with who you want to be and what it is that you want to do, it's going to be a whole lot easier to eventually find yourself in environments surrounded by people, living in the place that you want to live in, working in the manner and the location in which you want to work, that really is in alignment with your higher self and what your values truly are, right? So all you have to remember here is awareness allows you to find yourself questioning whether you are living from a bottom-up perspective, right, as in reacting to your environment, or a top-down perspective. Now, does that mean that you don't respond to your environment? Absolutely not. Leverage your environment. Use your environment as the data, as the feedback that is showing you where is your mind, right? Where is your heart? And then you can use that information to, again, realign with that person that you really want to be, and then more and more you'll find yourself in a place where you feel empowered to take the actions that really inspire you and move you closer and closer to your goal. So all you have to remember here is ask yourself, are you living from a bottom-up perspective or a top-down perspective? This is not capitalism in this particular instance. We're not talking about trickle-down economics. We're talking about trickle-down vision, and that trickle-down vision does in fact work. So let's move on to the next mental model. And by the way, if you want, you can follow along on the journal, with the journal as we go through this. The link is below this video. But we're going to go through the journal step by step at the end of this video. So have no fear. If you just want to sit back and listen and take in the information, that's totally cool too. So now let's talk about SMART goals. Visions are good and nice, and it's great to have visions, and it's very important to have very clear ideas of who it is that you want to be and what it is that you want to achieve. But I think it's important to remind ourselves that the difference between the person that has the six-pack and the person that's wanted the six-pack for the last 3 years, or the person that has a business that's bringing them $10,000 a month, and the person that's wanted a business that brings in $10,000 a month for the last 3 years, it's not the goal, right? They have the same goal. The difference is in the subsequent action, right? The difference is in the alignment of the identity and then following through with that identity. I think a lot of people, especially in the manifestation space, are almost like afraid of action because they believe that action is an indication that they don't believe hard enough, right? Action is an indication that the universe is not really on their side, and they have to use force rather than coming from a place of inner power. The reality is that your intuition is inviting you to take action based on alignment, right? The people that are succeeding, sure, maybe they've manifested it to a degree, but there was an action that came with that, right? Their intuition delivered them a message that was inviting them to try to do something. Now, I'm not gonna, we're not gonna have a deep spirituality debate here, right? We're simply going to talk about what could create a process and a strategy that would deliver some action that is truly in alignment. And I believe that the SMART goal process is a really good way to help yourself move down that path of taking inspired action. So what is a SMART goal? A SMART goal is a goal that is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. Specific meaning the outcome is really clear, right? If your goal is to have visible abs, you either have visible abs or you don't. If your goal is to have a business that brings you $10,000 a month, you either are making $10,000 a month from your business or you're not, right? If your goal is to be in a happy relationship where you and your partner are not fighting every day, you're maybe having one disagreement a week, very actionable. You're either in a relationship and consciously this is a great relationship. Wow, it feels so good. It feels so effortless, or it doesn't, right? And this is again where awareness is really key, and not being afraid to be real with yourself, afraid to acknowledge the situation that I'm seeing is not ideal. Now, whether you want to take forceful action and go out and change it, you want to find the change within to change it, that's totally up to you. The idea here is that you need to begin by being specific with what the outcome is. If the outcome is not specific enough, it's not gonna come as easily. I can guarantee you that. So specific, right? Visible abs or not. Measurable. So is the goal something that can be tracked? So let's talk about something that's a little more difficult, right? Fitness is a pretty easy one. I might be biased because fitness is something that's pretty natural for me, but fitness is one of those things where it's like you track the calories, right? If you know that you need to be in a deficit of 500 calories a day, you track your calories, boom, the numbers are there. If you know the goal is to be losing 1 pound a week, you're tracking that, right? And you're either losing the pound a week or you're not, but you're tracking it. It's very clear. Something that might be more ambiguous is like a relationship. So let's say that your goal is to find a partner and begin a relationship. You're single right now, you're unhappily single, you want to be, you want to be in a great relationship. I'm not gonna, again, I can't speak to the manifesting coaches who are like, oh no, you have to be super happy single before you can be. No, you don't, right? If you believe you don't, you don't. I promise you. Just, focus on imagining that you have a partner, focusing on believing that you have qualities that a great partner would want. That's all you got to do. You don't have to be happy single. I mean, you should be happy single, but I digress, right? So in that situation, trackable would be like, how often did I tell myself that I'm not worthy, right? How often did I tell myself that I'm not worthy of having a great partner, right? Maybe you start tracking and you start saying, you know what, I'm going to journal, and every time I tell myself that I am not worthy of having a great partner, I'm just going to write it down in my journal. Boom. Good job. You've done it, right? Now you 3 weeks go by and you notice that the original week, you told yourself 50 times that you're not worthy of having a great partner. 50 times you had some idea of an element of yourself that was not worthwhile, right? But by week 3, that dropped down to 10 times during the week. And you notice that every single time you very quickly caught yourself and had an effective mental narrative to get over it. That's measurable, right? So for your particular situation, whatever your top of mind goal is right now, right, you want to make sure that you build out a system that makes it measurable. And that can be as simple as a journaling process. And of course, if you want deeper help with this, hit the link below, sign up for some coaching with me. First session is always free, and we'll build out that system together on the call. Actionable and realistic. Now, I said this in my TikTok video, which was supposed to be the short version of this, but I'm going to group these two again. So actionable and realistic really comes down to, do you believe that this is attainable for you? If you don't believe that it's attainable for you, why are you focusing on this, right? There are things right now that if you were to ask your intuition, that you're capable of focusing on right here, right now. Make sure those things are the things that you're working on. Now, we'll talk about in another video, so go ahead and subscribe to this channel, hit that notification, whatever, right? We'll talk in another video about how to make affirmations that really work. An affirmation that really works is not an affirmation where you sit there and say, I have a six-pack, I have a six-pack, I have a six-pack, but then you walk out of the bathroom, after you were looking in the mirror, and you look down and you're like, I don't have a six-pack, and now you have this, clash within your head of, I'm not doing what I said that I needed to be doing. I'm not the person that I told myself that I was, and now you have this trust problem. So an affirmation that works is an affirmation that is a narrative affirmation that helps you get yourself into a state of motivation. So rather than saying I have a six-pack, it could be, every day I am focusing on prioritizing the activities that are getting me to a place where I am able to work out, right? I know that even though I might not be seeing results right now, if I continue to work out on a daily basis, pushing myself, focusing on optimizing my diet 1% every day, I'm going to get closer and closer to a place where I am seeing visible results. Do you see how saying that narrative is giving you the feedback that you are on the right path? And it doesn't require you to simply choke on this concept. It allows you to be open and allows you to be positive about the outcome that you're moving towards, right? This is what we want to make sure that we're doing. So again, I'll make a video on exactly how to map out those kinds of affirmations in the future, but that's where you want to start. Now, time bound is a hit or miss sometimes. For some people, putting a time limit on a goal or putting a deadline on a goal, it can serve you, but it can also rob you, right? It can also take from you. It can also give you this sense of like impending doom, that this deadline is coming up and you're no closer to that goal. Now, if you have a high level of awareness, if you have a high degree of ability to reason with yourself and conversate with yourself, this doesn't necessarily matter, because that time, that data can be good feedback of like, okay, I set this goal for 45 days from now, but I'm 5 days away from my goal, and I've probably gotten like 10% closer than I was when I started, right? Now I can reflect on this and ask myself, well, what could I change in the future? Number one, was the goal too ambitious, right? Because that's a thing, it's not a bad thing to admit that your goals are too ambitious. What that does is it helps you build more realistic goals, which are more actionable. We should not be afraid to build more actionable goals, right? Do you want the outcome, or do you just want to tell yourself that you're going to get it really, really fast, and then have this mental contrast because you're fucking so far away from the goal, right? That sucks. We don't want to force ourselves like that all the time. That doesn't make any sense. So sometimes the time-bound goal is a miss. It just gives you this contrast that kind of invites you to have reasons why you're not good enough. Sometimes the time-bound goal is a beautiful thing that gives you like it lights a healthy fire under your ass and gets you moving. That's something that you have to figure out for yourself. I recommend you experiment with both, right? Set a goal that has no time limit at all. Do that goal for 3 months. Then after that, set a goal that does have a time limit. See what works for you. It's going to vary person to person. It's going to vary based on where you're at in your life. But the bottom line is this is how we set SMART goals. Now, visualization, this probably should have been the first step, but visualization is a thing that allows us to have a physiological connection with our psychological desire. So whatever your goal is, say the goal is a six-pack, right? When you visualize that six-pack, you don't just want to visualize your body. It is good, calm your mind, see yourself in that situation, and we'll do this in the journal together. We'll literally do a visualization exercise together. But the idea here is that we are aligning ourselves physiologically with the goal. Now, when we align ourselves physiologically with the goal, we're building motivation. We're building our sense of like, I feel great when I do this. I feel great when I am in this aligned identity, and it feels good to know that my future self is this person. It just helps you take better action. It helps you stay inspired. That's the key. For some people, they genuinely believe that visualization is, amassing the forces of the universe to their side and bringing them closer to the goal. That's cool. If you believe that, great. If you don't believe that, you're not fucked, okay? Don't let people tell you because you don't believe a certain thing, it matters, right? If you're listening to this right now and you believe in visualization and you tell people that, and you believe in manifestation, like energetic, universal manifestation, and you tell people that, not believing is the problem, to a degree, shame on you, right? Because if you're a follower of people like Abdullah or Neville Goddard or, Joseph Murphy or any of these kinds of people, they literally say, like, it doesn't fucking matter if you believe it or not. If you visualize, it's going to happen. You could literally visualize and tell yourself, this will not happen, this will not happen, this will not happen. I believe that this will not happen. And it still will happen. Okay, so fucking police yourself first, okay? Be your own cop if you really need to be a cop. But if you're out here, like, trying to police people, your power over reality is already, really weak. So don't go trying to police other people, because it's literally just a reflection of how inadequate your own ability to believe is. So I'm not trying to be a douchebag here. I get that I kind of am, but the idea is that visualization, no matter whether it is actually amassing the forces of the universe or it is quite simply, a ability for you to get yourself into a physiological state of motivation, both are extremely effective. Both are extremely powerful practices, and you should be prioritizing both of these things. So I'm going to give you some basics on how I do this. And again, I'll talk about this more with the journal, because once you actually feel how effective this is, then if I tell you how to prioritize it, it's going to matter more. But the bottom line is, the way I typically visualize is, number one, I tie it to my awareness. So anytime that I find myself in a state of low motivation or a state of not feeling empowered, I visualize and I see the outcome and I see the success, and it helps me stay motivated. I also visualize before I go to bed. So before I go to bed, I go back through my day and I imagine things that didn't go well, and I imagine what would it have been like if it did go well, and what specifically could I have done different in that moment. Now, I sometimes also imagine like really big things that I want to achieve. It just feels good. It's fun. But I think more than anything, it's getting me to shift my character such that I know how to behave. I know how to behave in a way that's in alignment with this outcome that I really want to achieve. So next mental model is the idea of the spheres of influence. Now, once you visualize, once you have your goal, what's the difference between a person that stays in alignment and a person that's constantly veering off and focusing all their things and their attention's all over the place? Well, it's where is their sphere of influence? Do they focus on themselves? Do they focus on what they control? Do they focus like 10% or less on what they can influence? Or is the vast majority of their focus on everything else? On the news, on celebrity gossip, on the pessimistic doom that is constantly, befalling us as human beings on this planet, right? Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And so if your attention is constantly on things like the news or, Kim Kardashian's latest, scandal or whatever it is, you're basically throwing away this very finite attention, this very finite focus energy on things that are totally irrelevant. And then you're using the scraps to focus on your own life. What does that say about how much you value your goals, right? It's probably saying a lot. So what we want to make sure that we're doing is constantly raising our awareness and asking ourselves, where is my attention? Is my attention on things that I can actionably control? Or is my attention on things that I have just a tiny little bit of influence over, or on things that I have no influence over at all, right? And the best way to work on this, I would say, is in morning and evening routines. Maybe this should have been 8 mental models, but 7 mental models kind of sounded better to me. Morning and evening routines are really, really important. And they say a lot about your dopamine addictions. They say a lot about your priorities. Here's what I would say. The first hour before, like when you first wake up, most people are spending that time scrolling on their phone and then feeling frustrated about how they're going to go through a day that is not in alignment with the life that they really want to live. Spend that first hour instead counting things that you're grateful for, right? Avoid your phone as much as possible, count things that you're grateful for, and then journal about what you want your life to look like, and journal about how you can take better action towards your goals. This is going to make your life so much better in the long run, I promise. And if you want, drop a comment and I will drop you guys a little training on how to do morning and evening routines. This is something that I go really deep in on with my clients, and I do think it should be personalized. And so again, if you want my help personally with this, hit that link below, sign up for a coaching session, we'll rock it out together. But start to raise your awareness, right? Start to be aware of, am I focused on things that I have direct control over, or am I constantly worried about politics, world news, right? Climate change. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be worried about these things, but I'm saying most people are living in the wave pool, right? They're constantly terrified of the next wave splashing over them. The only way to turn the fucking wave pool off is to build so much power that you can get out and turn the wave pool off. But right now, you can't do that, right? And so the way that you get there is by focusing on what's right in front of you, strengthening your priorities and your ability to focus to the point where this sphere of control gets so big that nothing's outside of it, right? If that's really the kind of person that you want to be, if that's the person that you're willing to aspire to be, because that takes a lot of courage, right? Do that. Don't shy away from that. So, next mental model is the pattern interruption. So, it's all good and nice to be like, okay, well, yeah, focus on your sphere of influence. Make sure that you're, staying within the region of things that you can control. But how do you catch yourself in the moment when you're getting shouted at by your boss, you're scrolling on Reddit, you're feeling disempowered overall? Well, the way that we do that is with a pattern interruption. Now, a pattern interruption is quite simply, it's that, right? It's having a mental pattern. It's having a linear train of thought that is pessimistic or disempowered, and then stopping that train of thought, right? Putting a rod in the wheel. So here are the steps. Step number 1, recognize when you're feeling disempowered. Just notice, wow, I feel angry. Wow, I feel tense. Wow, I feel frustrated. Whatever it is, just acknowledge that. Become aware of that feeling, right? The second step is to remove yourself from the stimulation. Now, a lot of the time, this is really, really challenging. If you're at work and you're getting screamed at in a meeting, it's harder to take a step away. If you're in a situation where you can take a step away, literally physically get up, go to another room, do the next steps. But if you're finding yourself in a place where you can't as much remove yourself from the stimulation, the awareness will do a lot for you, right? Just being aware of like, wow, I feel disempowered. Here's why I feel disempowered. That will help take a lot of pressure off, because it will bring you back into the third person perspective of the energetic being that is controlling the physical being. And number 1, you'll be able to remind yourself, like, this will be over. This negativity it can't be forever. It can't kill me. Maybe it can, but even then, hey, it's over, right? Allow yourself that freedom to dissociate a little bit. Now, once you've removed yourself from the stimulation, either physically or mentally and emotionally, you want to get really clear on how you want to feel. So there could be kind of like a step 2.5 here, which is like breath, right? Leverage some kind of process that's going to bring you back to a balanced, calm state, such that you can define how it is that you want to feel. And then step 4, reapproach the challenge. Now, once you've identified how it is that you want to feel, you want to use tools and tactics to get yourself into that state. Now, this could be things that raise your energy. This could literally just be a journal activity that helps you identify what it is, what the outcome is. But once you do this and you get really clear on it, and then you start to do the work to get yourself into that feeling state, you then reapproach the challenge from the new state of being, and hopefully you start to get different results. Whether those, are physical, actual, objective results, or different results mentally and emotionally for you personally. That's what a pattern interrupt is. And so we're going to build a pattern interrupt together. So the final mental model is the idea of letting go. Now, letting go is something that a lot of people tout around as this really powerful spiritual practice, but they never explain it deeper than just, let go, right? Just release, right? But how do you do that? How does one release, especially in situations where the causing of the problem, the thing that is triggering you that you want to let go of, how do you let go of it if it's important, right? If it is a priority? Well, I want to explain letting go from the perspective of David Hawkins in his book, Letting Go, which is, it is a very physical practice, and it's a meditation, and it goes kind of like this. So letting go is where, if you want to practice letting go as a meditation, you're going to sit down, you're going to calm down, you're going to find yourself in a meditative state to the best of your ability. I have 1,000,001 videos on how to meditate, and so if you want more help with that, hit my channel up, and there's some meditations on letting go. Just search letting go in the search bar, letting go, Zach O.Y. You'll find 2 meditations, first things that come up. Now, after you've found yourself in a meditative state, a calm meditative state, you want to basically bring yourself into a place where you are visualizing a situation in the past that has been disempowering. Maybe that was something that happened today. Maybe that was something that happened deep in your past that you hold a lot of trauma from. Once you have identified this state, you want to breathe through it, right? You want to bring up that state physically in your body, feel the pain, right? Our bodies hold on to emotions as though they are physical feelings, right? They hold on to experiences as though they are physical feelings. So you want to identify that feeling within yourself, right? Wow, this city is so loud today. You want to identify that feeling within yourself and then breathe through it. You're not trying to force it out. You're not trying to push it out. You are literally allowing that feeling to exist, and you are calming any sense, any desire to get rid of it, run away from it, hide from it. So feel yourself moving past that emotion. As you breathe, you will notice that it dissipates more and more and more, to the point where it is no longer triggering you, where it is no longer crushing you from the inside. Now, as you're practicing this, you can practice this as long as you want, and you'll find that when you stand up from the meditation, you're going to be like, well, nothing's really changed, right? But when we allow ourselves to move past feelings, the thoughts will subsequently change, and you'll notice that you will feel those physical feelings and the subsequent thoughts less and less as time goes on. And the more you practice this, the easier it will be to move past it. So now we've gone through the last mental model, which is letting go. Let's jump into the journaling exercise. Okay, so the journaling exercise is super straightforward. One of the first things you're going to notice is it's not the same in structure as the 7 mental models. We kind of jump around in a different way, but I promise I did this so that it can actually be effective, right? So the first step that we want to talk about is who we're going to be in a time horizon. Now, I'm not giving you a specific time horizon, right? I want you to choose the time horizon that makes the most sense for you right now. So maybe when you visualize your best self and the goal achievement that you really want to see, it's 5 years from now. Maybe it's 10 years from now. Maybe it's 50 years from now. Whatever that is, I want you to write down who I will become in XYZ years based on your choice. And then I want you to put down as much information as you possibly can. There's no wrong way to do this. I would focus on feeling. I would focus on state of being. I would focus on what feels the most tangible to you. So whether that, maybe if that's not feeling, maybe it's more physical stuff of like where you're going to live, what your partner is going to be like, those kinds of things, that helps you more. It doesn't matter. Put down as much information. This can be as long as you want. And I highly recommend that you come back to it and build more on it. This could be the beginning of the best vision board you've ever made. And so put as much detail as you can here. If you'd like, pause this video because I'm going to move on quick. I'm going to move on to the next mental model right now. So if you need to pause this and build out that vision, go for it. The next thing we're gonna do is build out a SMART goal that takes that vision and then breaks it down into the next 6 to 12 months. Now, the reason that we're doing this is so the action starts to get really tangible. Now, if you need to, I built you a little section where you can talk about what this big goal looks like if you're seeing progress 6 to 12 months from now. So if 5 years from now, you are, a marathon runner, right? You are competing in Ironmans. What is happening in the next 6 to 12 months that is getting you close to that 5-year goal, right? What kind of tangible progress are you seeing? Now, take some time, write that down. And again, you're going to build a goal out of this that's a SMART goal, but you can come back to this and rebuild this. Hopefully you see these tools as something that you can use for life and you continue to come back to them on a regular basis. So once you've built out that 6 to 12 month goal, how can you make it into a goal that is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound? I want you to write out what your primary objective is, right? What's that 6 to 12 month outcome? And then ask yourself, is this goal specific? Is this goal measurable? What does that measurement look like? Is this goal attainable and realistic? Do you believe that you can attain it, and do you believe that it's realistic? These are up to you. There's nobody that can tell you yes or no for this stuff. Now, is this goal time-bound? Again, if you want to skip this step, do it. But I highly recommend that if you do skip this step, come back to this in a couple of months and try it with a time-bound goal. So I want you to pause this video, write this stuff down. Don't just say yes for everything. Say like yes because, right? Give some why. Give some why behind it. That's going to make it just that much more punchy. So pause this video, go ahead and do that. Now the next step is you want to write it out in the I am form. So once you write out whether it is all of these things, if it meets all these qualifications, you want to write down what does it look like in the I am form. I am, working out 5 times a week, eating healthy naturally, and easily watching myself maintain a six-pack for the rest of my life. Not impossible. I have maintained a six-pack for the last 15 years, and it's not that hard. So next, we want to focus on observing the Hawkins model. I give you some detail about the Hawkins model right here. The scales of consciousness. Basically, what I'm asking you to do is build out a system where you're able to identify where you're at right now and then acknowledge where you want to be. So you do that via the process of the pattern interruption. So sorry guys, it's hot out here and I've been pushing. So the steps, right? Recognize when you're feeling disempowered, remove yourself from the stimulation, define how you want to feel, reapproach the challenge. Now, what I'm asking you to do here is to kind of visualize yourself going through this. You quite literally want to write down what that personal pattern interruption process would look like. So I'm asking you to visualize a moment in the recent past when you felt triggered, frustrated, what have you, and then imagine, write down what it would look like to do this pattern interrupt process. So you could say, I am sitting at my computer. I am noticing how much my workload is for the next week. I am feeling tense and my mind is starting to imagine how little time I'm going to have for all the things that I really want to do, right? Then I'm acknowledging, okay, this is how I feel. So now I'm going to stand up from my computer. I'm going to walk around my building and I'm going to take an in-breath for 2 steps, hold for 2 steps, and an out-breath for 2 steps, right? I'm using this process so that I can find myself in a calm state of mind. Now that I'm in a calm state of mind, I want to imagine what the best case scenario would be. Maybe that includes less work. Maybe that includes just me feeling less disempowered about having so much work, right? I am imagining what the best state of being would look like in this particular situation. Now that I've visualized myself in the best case scenario, I know that it won't be it won't be disempowering for me to sit back down and get back into that challenge now, because I am in direct alignment with my higher self, and I know that I'm going to be able to take on this challenge from a place of bliss and ease. It's a good place to start. So, next thing that we're going to do is kind of walk through a visualization exercise together. Now, I want you to, if you feel the need to really radically get into a better state of mind, maybe that pattern interrupt process brought you to a place where you're like, man, I was just visualizing myself feeling kind of negative, or kind of using a process to just overcome feeling so bad about the negativity, right? I don't want to visualize the best case scenario. Maybe I should have framed this in a different way. Maybe I should have put it somewhere else in the activity. If you need to, pause this video, but we're going to do a quick meditation together, right? So here's what we're going to do. I want you right now to find yourself in a comfortable position. You can be seated, you can be standing, you can be lying down, doesn't matter. Find yourself comfortable wherever it feels good right now. This is only going to take about 2.5 minutes. So once you're in a comfortable position, I want you to start with a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and close your eyes as you maintain a pace that feels good with your breath. In through your nose, filling your diaphragm, and then when you're ready, exhaling through your mouth. Find your comfortable pace. It can be any pace you want. And so now in the blackness of your mind, I want you to bring up your big goal right now, your top of mind goal. What do you really want to achieve more than anything else? So as you're breathing, bring that goal up. And so I want you to see yourself in the position of having already achieved this goal. Look around. What do you see? When you look down at your feet, what do you see? When you look down at your hands, what do you see? Now, when you go in your mind's eye and know that you've already achieved this goal, how does it feel? What do you see? How does it feel to know that you've already achieved this goal? Physiologically feel that feeling in your body. Really accept that knowing in yourself right now. And now take a deep breath, smile, and open your eyes. Right? You can feel the difference. You can feel a sensation of being physiologically different, right? Now, this feeling may stick around. It might dissipate after a few minutes from now. But imagine if you're able to do this kind of visualization on a very regular basis, right? Can you understand how you would take different action? Can you understand how you would have a different state of belief around the challenge of the action, how hard it's going to be, right? If we do this on a regular enough basis, we will change who we are fundamentally. And it's going to be very, very easy for us to become the person that we want to become. But it has to become a habit. And so like I said earlier on in this video, I would recommend making a habit out of this by, number one, just raising your awareness and doing it as often as possible. A lot of people have the idea that, they just visualize big goals, but then when it comes to like the minor day-to-day frustrations, they totally lose themselves, right? In the book, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, he lays out 12 actionable steps that he's used to transform his life. And one of them was visualizing, but it's visualizing in the moment. Every time he experiences a challenge, he imagines himself overcoming the challenge. Whether that challenge is just, fuck, the elevator stopped working, I got to go up all the stairs. Whether that challenge is, my bank is telling me like the funds are on hold, or whatever it is, right? Imagining myself after work and, man, I really got to hit a workout, but I'm too tired. Imagine yourself overcoming the challenge, right? A lot of the time it's just going to be a mental and emotional overcoming. You're just not going to be as reactive. You're not going to get freaked out and frustrated. That's it, right? But if you do this on a regular enough basis, it will become habit, right? And you will habitually imagine yourself overcoming the challenge. And so if you are a manifesty person, listen up, right? Because this is probably a lot of what you're missing. You're probably not missing the big visualization. It's probably not that you're imagining wrong, right? It's probably that when it comes to the day-to-day frustrations, you look at that as evidence that, what the fuck, I'm not on the right path. I am not in alignment with my higher self. Well, it's like, yeah, exactly, because you told yourself that just now. You just said that, right? So get into the habit of practicing this visualization stuff for the big goals, right? If you want, take some time at the beginning and the end of the day, maybe 5-10 minutes, and do a meditation where you really feel into that imaginable best case scenario. But more than anything, get into the habit of imagining yourself overcoming the moment-to-moment frustrations. That's where the gold's at. So, letting go, right? In the journal, this is giving you some deep processes on how to do the letting go. I explained it I hope, well enough in the video. And then you can click here to get a letting go meditation that's on my YouTube, totally free. This has been the video, my friends. I hope this was helpful. I highly recommend that you sign up for a free coaching session with me. We'll go through this stuff. We'll talk about what your goals are. We'll talk about what your challenges are. We'll talk about what the bridge is to overcome those challenges and really find success. The first session is 100% free. This could be a session that goes as long as an hour and a half, 2 hours. I do not charge for that session, and I do not gatekeep at all. We're going to give you exactly what you need. At the end of that session, if you're like, holy shit, that was life transforming, which I hope it is, A, give me a great testimonial. B, we'll talk about what it looks like to continue with the coaching. All of my programs are 100% personalized for the time being. Might eventually have some courses, might eventually have some standalone audiobooks or whatever it is. But for the time being, I work with all of my clients one-on-one to get the best possible results that I can for your life. And so if that sounds good to you, there's no risk. Yeah, hit that little button and I'll see you soon. Peace.